So I want to break down Chaturanga for you today. I've gotten a lot of questions from students about Chaturanga recently, not only about the physical aspect of it, but about the terminology, especially for those of y'all who go to other classes or watch other videos online, things like that. It can be kind of confusing, and I totally get that because I've been there before. So, starting with terminology, Chaturanga is also can sometimes be referred to as Vinyasa, and those are just kind of like shorthand terms for your yoga teacher. And they kind of are used to encompass this whole series of movements going from high plank or plank pose, lowering down to Chaturanga, which some teachers call mid plank or low plank, and then going to up dog and then to downward facing dog. And so sometimes teachers will say, move through your Chaturanga, referring to that whole series of movements, or flow through your Vinyasa, moving through that whole series of movements. I understand the confusion because Chaturanga is a pose in and of itself. It's that pose where your elbows are right by your ribs, where you're lowered about halfway down. That's Chaturanga. So it is a single pose by itself as well. Also Vinyasa, I had somebody ask me, isn't that a kind of yoga? Yes, it is a style of yoga too. So it's a thousands of years old practice that's been translated from Sanskrit into English and then westernized. And so, I mean, things have kind of been translated differently and different people use different words when they teach. But anyway, that's all it's referring to. And so that's what we're going to work on today. I'm going to go through some modifications and also some up levels if you want to make it more challenging or just mix up your Chaturanga. So we'll get into that. Okay, so now that we're kind of clear on that terminology, I'm just going to run you through kind of the baseline standard Chaturanga flow, and we'll start from there. So, starting in halfway lift is where a lot of times your flow will start. So, long spine, your halfway lift, your hands might be on your shins to get the most length from your spine. They might be on your quads to get the most length from your spine, especially if you're like a big muscly dude. Hands might be right here to get the most length. When I'm warm, I can do my halfway lift with my hands, palms all the way down on the mat. I'm not super warm right now. So if I was doing my Chaturanga right now, I might just leave my fingertips on the mat and lengthen through my back. So shifting the weight forward into the balls of your feet a little bit. And then my biggest little yoga tick that I have is I tend to crane my neck forward and look forward in my halfway lift. Well, that's not lengthening my spine because your neck is part of your spine. So look down, let your spine, your neck continue to align with the rest of your spine for your halfway lift. So you're lengthening as much as you can. And then for your high plank, plant your hands, fingers spread nice and wide, step your feet back to your high plank. So like you're pushing the earth away from you, hips are in line with heels and shoulders, really press through your fingertips, eyes of your elbows face forward. So where your elbows bend, this little kind of joint right here, the soft spot of your elbow, it's called the eyes of your elbows. So those are kind of facing forward. So your biceps are almost rotating in front of you, like you're kind of opening a pickle jar in each hand. I've heard that kind of description before. So you're kind of tractioning your hands to the outside edge of your mat a little bit. Fingers still point forward though, because I've seen people turn their hands way out. So your hands are forward, it's just an energetic rolling open. So pressing through your high plank, lowering down to your Chaturanga by shifting forward a little bit onto the tips of your toes. That'll stack your elbows over your wrists, lower down halfway. So your elbows are right by your ribs. This is Chaturanga right here. Hips in line with heels and shoulders still. Flip to the tops of your feet, upward facing dog. So pressing through the tops of your feet. Knees and thighs are off the mat. I think Nama might be blocking that in the shot. Heart is coming through your shoulders. Gaze is forward. Again, neck not crane back like this. Neck in line with the rest of your spine. Really press through the tops of your feet. I see people just hang out like this all the time. Lift your heart, press through your hands. Then exhale, downward facing dog, using your core strength to lift your hips up and back. Nice long back, again, still pressing through your fingertips, letting your heels relax towards the mat, lower ribs towards your upper thighs. So that's your basic Chaturanga. If you'd like to modify it from there, great start is coming down to your knees for your high plank. So if you're building shoulder strength, really nice place to start. Same thing for your chaturanga. You're going to shift forward a tiny little bit so that your elbows are over your wrists as you lower. This will be your chaturanga with knees on the mat. Now to switch to your up dog, press through the tops of your feet, lift your knees and thighs, engage your quads. This is your up dog. Then go to downward facing dog, send your hips up and back. If you are still needing something a little bit more supportive for your shoulders or for your low back, not a problem. From your high plank, come down to your knees, lower all the way down to your belly, and then come into cobra. So just using the muscles along your spine to lift your heart up, not pressing through the hands because you don't want to dump too much into your low back. So you might even hover your hands a little bit. Come back down, back up through downward facing dog. So you're just substituting that cobra for your up dog in that variation. Another great option if you still want to do more core work or if you have shoulder issues or low back issues and you don't want to do any sort of lifting through your heart or your shoulders at all, so no up dog, no cobra, you can either hold your high plank, stay here for the breath in for up dog, and then go to downward facing dog. Or you can hold your plank on your knees, high plank on your knees. So when everybody else lowers down for chaturanga and then goes to up dog, you just hold right here. Hold your high plank, really focus on tightening your core and getting your plank to be the best that it can be. For some people, a challenge in chaturanga is the elbows because they'll want to bring their elbows out wide like a push-up, so they lower down like this. That's not the best for your joints. It's hard on your wrists, hard on your elbows. You want to keep your elbows hugged and tucked in by your ribs as you lower for chaturanga. So a great way to practice that and get your muscle memory used to it is take a strap, bring it to where it's about shoulder width distance apart for your elbows. So your arms should be right by your sides, right where you want your ribs for your chaturanga. And then just practice. You probably won't go through your whole class like this, but maybe before you start class or before or after class or at your house, whatever, you can practice doing your high plank. So right here in high plank, feeling that support of the strap, lowering down for chaturanga. So you come halfway, your strap is going to stop you. You could just let go. Your strap, you're still just halfway. So you're right by your ribs. Don't let go. Feel that activation. Really practice hugging in your triceps close to your body. So this is right where you should be for your chaturanga. Flip to your toes, upward facing dog, and then go right back to downward facing dog. So you might just do a few chaturangas like that, feel that difference. I would say the biggest issue most people have is lowering down too low in their chaturanga. That was my biggest issue too. And I actually developed some not so great shoulder issues because of that. Because the thing that happens when you get real low in your chaturanga and your ribs start to come past your elbows, when you flip up to upward facing dog, you can see how much rotation that takes for your shoulder to dip up like that. And I know that some lineages of yoga actually teach it that way. To me, it is not the safest for alignment purposes, and I've experienced in my own body that it can really add up over time if you're doing tons of chaturangas. If you're in teacher training, anything like that, you may want to consider modifying to only lowering halfway, because then when you only lower halfway, you can just lift your shoulders up. So there's no scooping forward to get your shoulders. Your shoulders are right there. You just straighten your arms and lift up to down dog. So that's really good practice. If you are blessed with a bigger chest, the strap option might not be the best for you to practice lowering halfway, because your chest might stop you from getting down halfway. You might only get, bent to about here before your strap stops you. So if you're looking for another alternative to that strap, you can have a block or 2 blocks. I like to practice with 2 just because I like to be symmetrical. So you can take 2 blocks, come to your high plank, shift forward onto your tiptoes, lower down till you feel your shoulders come onto those blocks. That's about halfway, and then come up. For me, the blocks are like a teeny bit too low, I notice, so it's not my favorite way of practicing lowering halfway. But if you only have blocks, you don't have a strap, it's better than nothing, and it'll give you an idea of where to stop, so you'll feel that. So those are really good ways of practicing to know where your body is, how far you're lowering down. If you have a mirror, that's awesome. If you don't, tape yourself, like I do. It really is humbling because sometimes you think that, oh my gosh, in my head, I'm totally doing it this way, and then you see yourself doing it, and you're like, oh, that wasn't quite what I thought my body was up to. So if you don't have a mirror, you can always do that, but that strap is really helpful. Blocks are also really helpful. Okay, so as far as up-leveling your Chaturanga, some people are like, oh, you know, I'm kind of bored, I want a little bit more from my Chaturanga, or I have these other things that I'm working on in my practice, and I want to use that time during my Chaturanga to work towards those. Great. So a few little up levels you can do are jumping forward and back to your Chaturanga. So what I mean by that is if you're in your halfway lift, nice long flat spine, or maybe your hands are here, wherever they are, plant your hands for your high plank. To jump back, instead of going to high plank, you're going to jump straight back with bent arms. So ideally you can jump straight back to Chaturanga. You might not be all the way there yet, that's okay, I'll show you what to do for that. But plant your hands, press through the balls of your feet. I like to lift my heels and then start to tuck my belly way up. So core is super active. Deep breath in, exhale, jump straight back to your high plank. So you jump right back. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Now if you're not quite familiar with that halfway action, if you're worried about jumping down too far, letting yourself lower too far, maybe hitting the ground, you can jump back still a little bit higher. So inhale, halfway lift, get your core ready, jump back, and then lower down wherever your Chaturanga is. Inhale, up dog, exhale, down dog. The important part is that you're not jumping directly back to high plank with straight arms, because that's really going to be hard on your low back, it's going to be hard on your shoulders, it's going to be hard on your elbows, your wrists. So you want to have a little bit of a bend when you jump back. So halfway lift, jump back, little bend in your elbow. You can lower down a little bit more if you need to, but you want to have elbows bent, almost like a shock absorber, to protect your body for jumping back. Cool? So if you're doing your jump back, halfway lift, plant your hands, jump back to Chaturanga, upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Now you can challenge yourself to jump up from down dog to your Chaturanga. So you're going to inhale, look forward. I like to bend my knees, scoop my belly up, take a deep breath in, exhale, pounce forward, feet together at the top of your mat, halfway lift, forward fold. So the idea about jumping forward is not about how hard you can make your jump and land at the top. It's not about the forcefulness of the jump. It's about getting hang time, really activating your core, because the idea is you're practicing that lift to get you closer to an inversion. So my little cheat sheet that I like to use for that is how quietly can I land? Because the more quietly that you land, the odds are you really are controlling your core and using that to get you to the front of your mat as opposed to sheer force of jumping. So again, in downward facing dog, look forward, take a deep bend, press through the balls of your feet, jump, hang, and then land. So getting that practice of jumping gently as opposed to just hurling yourself forward. And again, that's going to help you work on inversions. There are people, not me, but people who can jump forward, do a handstand, and then come to their forward fold. So they're doing a handstand in between all of their Chaturangas, which is like, you know, great for them. Still working on that for me. But that's another variation, is jumping forward and back. All right, so another up level that you can take is the Ekapada Chaturanga, or one-legged Chaturanga. Ekapada means one leg or 1 foot. I can't remember exactly in Sanskrit, but it's basically 1 leg or 1 foot is Ekapada. So you might hear your teacher say that in class. What that looks like is, let's say you're coming from a standing posture like Warrior 2, for example, where your legs are open. Nama, can you sit or lie down? Nama. Can you sit? Can you sit? Thank you. Lie down. Thank you. All right, so you're coming from a standing posture like Warrior 2. Deep breath in, exhale, Chaturanga. Spin your hands down to your mat. Leave your right leg lifted as you lower down for your chaturanga. So this is an ekapada chaturanga, only one foot is on the mat. You're going to set that foot back down, tops of your feet, up dog. Exhale, down dog. So I'll do it on the other side just so you can see. So let's say you're in warrior two, deep breath in, exhale, chaturanga, spin your hands down, step that left foot back, hips stay level, lower down still just halfway, upward facing dog, exhale, downward facing dog. And your ekapada chaturanga, maybe your foot is right here. It doesn't have to be lifted so high. Maybe just a teeny lift to start out with. My arms are getting tired. I'm getting a little sweaty too. Sorry, guys. All right, so that's ekapada chaturanga. So anytime you're coming back from a one-legged pose where you're scooping that foot back to get back to your chaturanga, maybe try to keep it lifted. Hover it a little bit. Don't put it all the way on the ground as you lower. Get your body used to that idea of ekapada. All right, last little up level I'll show you. If you are more interested in working on, let's say, arm strength and core strength rather than doing your up dog during your chaturanga, or if you just want to add a little extra on to your chaturanga, you can either substitute for your up dog or just add it into your flow, a chaturanga push-up. So you can come from high plank, lower down chaturanga, press back up high plank, lower down, up dog, down dog. So you can kind of play with that and make up your own thing too. I've seen a lot of teachers teach come to chaturanga, come to up dog, back to chaturanga, back to high plank, then down dog. So you can play with that idea of pressing up and down, doing a chaturanga push-up. Now when I say push-up, I do not mean bring your arms out. Again, elbows are by your body, triceps are by your body the whole time. So you're just lowering up and down like your chaturanga, pressing up, pressing down, arms still close in. Cool? So those are lots of options you can practice. See what works for you, throw them into your class, see what happens. Practice makes perfect. There's no such thing as yoga perfect. It's only yoga practice. So enjoy it, make it fun, see what your body is capable of. Thanks, guys.